Your Brain Rebalanced Radio Show. This is Season 2, Episode 5. Today we have Alexander Rhodes, one of the founders of NoFap, and Mark Queppet of the Sacred Sexuality Project. Welcome to the show, guys.
Hi, thanks for having us.
So, I'd like to get a little bit of background on both of you. How about we start with you, Alex? Can you just tell us how you first started thinking about NoFap itself in your personal life and as a community?
Yeah, sure. So, I guess I grew up using internet porn. I started probably around, I guess in the media I've said 12, but I think it was maybe a year or two before that, maybe more. It's kind of hard to pinpoint the exact age, but needless, I grew up using high-speed porn or internet porn, and that was my sex education. I didn't have sex till I was 19, so by the time I started having sex, I had about at least 7 to 10 years of porn under my belt.
Yeah, and very common.
Unfortunately, it's very common. So I was in this first generation of people who grew up on high-speed internet porn, and whenever I actually started having sex, I can actually maintain an erection or without imagining porn in my head. But I didn't even realize it was a problem. It was just something I was used to, and so I actually, I guess I was 21, so a few years after that, when I created NoFap, I started it on Reddit after somebody on Reddit, on another subreddit community on Today I Learned posted that a Chinese journal article found out that if you abstain from masturbation or orgasm for a week, men's testosterone levels go up XYZ percentage. And so people in the comment section of these of the whole website were talking about this study. Like, they were like, "Oh, have you done the week-long challenge yet?" It was just like called very discreetly the week-long challenge, and it was like kind of, I would describe it as a meme or something, like just, it was an inside joke on Reddit. And so I created this thing called called NoFap as a place to just kind of host these week-long challenges. It was really popular, and I was like, I'm going to start a place where we could kind of experiment with this and try not wanking off for a week, and I'm going to call it NoFap. And that actually, I guess that's not the whole story, because there was this guy named Oropax, or that's his username on Reddit, and he also created a thread in the subreddit Get Motivated, and he was talking about just how abstaining from masturbation is like the #1 way to get motivated in life. So that in combination with that journal article kind of spurred the creation of NoFap. And from there, like at first it was just like this little place to abstain from masturbation for a week or a month, but soon after we realized that, hey, like if you're abstaining from masturbation, naturally most people aren't watching porn. Like, you don't want to watch porn for the cinematography, you want to so naturally we stopped watching porn too, and we started experiencing these tremendous benefits in our lives, and from there it kind of snowballed into this porn recovery community that you see today.
What year did you start the Reddit NoFap?
NoFap was created on June 20th, 2011, very specific.
2011.
Oh, yeah.
Probably 11 o'clock or something, yeah.
June 20th, 2011.
So
okay.
What opened up my mind to all this was Gary Wilson's TED Talk and his website. Was that around at all at that time?
I think his website was actually started a couple years earlier, but I never heard of it whenever I first created NoFap, and then the TED Talk came maybe, I'm not sure how many months after, but I think it was in the first year, but he mentioned NoFap in the TED Talk.
Yeah, he did.
But I wouldn't say that he inspired the creation of NoFap, but at the same time, like, he was a major part of the growth that you see today. I mean, he mentioned it in the TED Talk, and after that happened, it just kind of exploded from there. And Gary Wilson's been a friend of mine this entire time, and he's been just incredibly helpful, and he's such a great person, and I love him. And he's a hero. He's a hero for what he's done for this.
I think he's a friend to all of us, for sure.
Yeah,
absolutely.
So, Mark, how did you find NoFap, and how long have you known Alexander?
So I guess I'll kind of just tell the story and try and answer all those questions. So I started, masturbating to porn, at a young age, probably around 12, 13, something like that. And that was like after, you know, just finding masturbation on my own, using like the underwear section in a Sears catalog and, you know, that kind of stuff. Obviously, when I found the internet porn, it was like, oh, wow, this is here? So it's like, you know, was sneaking that all through high school and everything. And I never, like, agreed with it. Like, I was always raised, I was raised Catholic, so obviously that kind of stuff's a no-no there. But, you know, beyond that, there's something about it that just didn't feel, like, right and good to me. And so I was always trying, like, there's always kind of like this inner battle going on. And I remember where I kind of, you know, broke bad, in a sense, was sophomore year in high school. It was Lent, actually, and I decided to give up porn and masturbation that Lent. And I went, like, 30 days. And on, like, that 30th day, I was feeling, like, really, like, stressed and down and everything. And then I went and I masturbated, and all of a sudden I just started, like, laughing. I felt like a million times better. And I was like, wow, this is just my body telling me that this kind of stuff is perfect for me. Like, clearly my body needs this. You know, it's healthy. The church doesn't know what the heck they're talking about. And so I went back pretty hard into the porn then, all the way through, you know, high school and college. And all during that time, I always really, I was always very passionate, but I also struggled a lot with being motivated. So I was constantly studying self-development, like trying to figure out how to get myself to reach the aspirations that I wanted. And I realized, looking back now, that the big thing blocking me was this, you know, addiction and the kind of pleasure-seeking behavior that it fostered. And so through college, I started exploring a bunch of different things, and everything pointed me to saying, hey, this porn stuff's not good for you. And at that point, I found Your Brain on Porn. I found NoFap, and it was like, oh my gosh, that thing I was feeling back during Lent, it wasn't my body telling me that, like, you know, masturbating to porn was healthy. It was my body going through withdrawal. I was addicted. And, like, that was, like, boom, like, you know, life-changing. And from that point, I think I went, like, 16 days my first streak, and then, you know, I'm still on the streak that, you know, I started after that. And in the communities, I saw a bunch of guys trying to make the same shift that I did, but they seemed like they were lacking kind of like the personal development tools to make it happen. And that's when I started making YouTube videos to help guys, you know, handle the actual internal mechanics of making this sort of shift. And they started to get fairly popular. I was sharing them on NoFap, and the way that I met Alexander was actually, I was getting in trouble for advertising my stuff on the subreddit. And that's what put us in connection at first. And then I actually coached Alexander for a little while, and then we decided to team up and build the NoFap Academy, where kind of like I bring my self-development perspectives to the NoFap audience to help them, you know, quit porn in a systematic way.
Mm-hmm.
So,
Cool. Cool.
That's funny about how you met.
So,
I know that.
yeah, that is
Well, actually, that's not the whole. I mean, I think it was Marnia who, Marnia, Gary Wilson's partner, who actually. Because I remember Mark kept getting in trouble with the moderation team for self-promotion, and then like that. So that was like his interaction. He's like, "I got such a dick," or something, I don't know. And then Marty actually encouraged us to start talking, and I think, I sent Mark an email, and we just started talking. We really hit it off. A lot of our goals were, I mean, he comes from a completely different background than me. I never grew up with religion, really, and he came from a little bit of a religious perspective, despite that his content is purely secular. And I just found out, like, we really see eye to eye on pretty much everything, and like everything that I lack, he brings to the table, and I think it's just an incredible symbiotic relationship that we have, and that's how why we decided to team up and help people quit porn together.
Yeah.
So,
well,
you guys want
a lot of guys
go ahead, Noah.
Look up to you two because you've added a lot to that community. I've seen your videos, Mark. I feel like I know you already, even though this is the first time we've talked. And Alex, I mean, NoFap has been a safe haven for a lot of guys who've been struggling with this addiction, so thank you for creating that. And a lot of questions we received were actually about your personal struggles with porn now, both of you? Like, do you still experience cravings, and do you still relapse occasionally? That sort of thing. People are wondering.
So for me, I don't relapse anymore. I haven't PMO'd for well over 2 years now. I think I'm like 2.5 years or something like that. I mean, is there still that part of me that craves escape? Yeah, like whenever I'm stressed or bored or lonely or whatever, there's part of me that might seek an escape. But like for me, porn is no longer on the table. Like I might reach for video games or watch some Netflix or something. Obviously, that kind of activity has gone down significantly since becoming conscious of porn as an escape behavior. But I believe full recovery is completely possible. And in today's day and age, unless you want to go live in a cave or in a forest or become a monk, you have to be able to be fully recovered, meaning you have to be able to look at a trigger and be like, no thanks, I'm not going to go back to that. You can't be like the alcoholic who, if they smell alcohol, is going to relapse, You got to take that process deeper, I think. And just letting people know it is possible.
And Alex, it was actually through your coaching relationship with Mark that you gave up PMO for good. Is that correct?
Oh yeah, Mark definitely played a big part of it. There were, I would say, many factors in my life at the time that kind of enabled me to quit porn for good. I think that it was just kind of just the time where everything came together. I did actually quit porn for a while, so I was on one really long streak. And then my girlfriend broke up with me, and that was a tremendous emotional. You guys are nodding your head. You know what I'm talking about.
Tell me about it, man. As we lost some.
For lack of a better phrase, it fucking sucked. and so I had I was just at one of the definitely the lowest point in my life, and I really started getting into the porn really heavily. Like I'm talking all day, just masturbating the emotions away. And right when I was kind of crawling out of that hole, whenever I met Mark Queppet, and I started reading books, and I started exercising, and and I got I graduated college, and just a lot of stuff came together. I really matured a lot as a person in a very short amount of time, and all of those things together enabled me to quit porn for good. And I feel like before quitting for good, I was kind of just white knuckling it. I was kind of just being triggered and letting myself be really just dwell on that trigger and just kind of white knuckle my way through it. Whenever I met Mark and kind of implemented some of the things that he taught me, I kind of learned how to be one with the trigger and just kind of say no. Just say no. So I've been porn free for over, I think, a year now, and I haven't gone back. I do. I don't think I maybe sometimes, if I'm feeling really emotional, I do maybe have some cravings, for sure. And one of the problems is running NoFap is that I do get exposed to porn sometimes. And we were talking about this a little bit before you started recording, Noah. But people post there's probably maybe anywhere from 10 to 50 pornographic things posted on NoFap every day.
Wow.
And somebody has to be the one to be the janitor and clean that crap off of the floor.
That's unfortunate. Wow.
Yeah, so that would be me and the moderation teams on both NoFap, the subreddit, and NoFap.com. And so I do sometimes get hit in the face with triggers, but I wouldn't consider it a relapse because it's always inadvertent. I try not to look at them. I just kind of you could just tell it's porn by looking at the link usually. But sometimes they do trick me, and sometimes I do get slapped in the face with a big pornographic image on my computer screen, and you gotta click the X button and just move on with your life.
Yeah, that's amazing.
And
there are people
it's
out there
possible
who think that's a good use of their time is to sabotage people who are trying not to masturbate.
I know.
You'd be surprised.
Right.
Yeah.
You'd be surprised. There are people who try to disguise their messages. Hey man, I saw this really cool recovery video by Mark Queppet. Click here. You click it. Exitvideos.com.
That sucks. That's awful.
Gosh.
Oh.
Yeah, there's
Especially
some.
David Lay just trolling everything. He's just actually just posting like millions of different aliases just like every day.
If you're listening, David Lay, we'd love to have you on the show, by the way.
Yeah, we love you, David Lay.
Please.
For those of you who don't know, David Lay writes psychiatric articles, and he's a researcher and is he a psychiatrist? Is that correct? Yeah, and he does not believe that porn addiction is a thing or that porn can cause problems. He actually stated porn is never the cause of any of your problems. And from people who have had porn-induced ED or any of the other porn-induced problems, we know that's not true.
No kidding. I actually have
also said that NoFap is a religious cult or something. I don't know.
Yeah,
he was like, oh, it's based on these moral and religious principles. It's like, dude, have you ever met me? Like,
yeah. Well, he also said that like the reason why erectile dysfunction rates are up are because of alcohol and tobacco, even though that's all gone down in the last 30 or 40 years. So he's just opposite.
Probably down significantly.
Yeah, substantially. Yeah.
But actually, with the best interest and has written a book about the myth of sex addiction, and he's probably writing one about the myth of porn addiction right now as we speak.
Well, that's why he's so upstream on it. I mean,
that's why exactly.
Back, but
do you guys know what his book is about? Women who stray or something like? Isn't it doesn't he not believe in monogamy or like what is that?
I haven't read it. I don't know anything specific about his book. I just know he doesn't believe behavioral addictions are real. So. It's just like a fundamental thing.
So pretty much he's the arch enemy of all of us.
Yeah, exactly.
It
seems to me he's made a career out of being controversial. Kind of, that's his career. He's made a career and got a following out of being controversial and going against the stream of, essentially, or going against the flow of what everyone else is sort of.
Book titles? Come on.
I mean,
what do you
his whole identity is built around kind of being controversial. So. Yeah.
But actually, you know what? I had a question for you, Mark, since you're working with a lot of different clients right now.
Sure.
One thing, and I think that I'm kind of interested in, maybe other people are interested in too, is so some people when they choose to do NoFap and quit porn and quit masturbating, they're able to do it easily and it's no problem. And maybe with the help of forms and stuff like that, they never really seem to go back. Then other people, it's a lot more hard for them. Have you noticed a difference in between those two people, and maybe have you identified tools that you can offer people that that the people who are able to quit have and the people who don't have?
Sure. So I think probably one of the biggest differences between someone who quits easily and someone who doesn't is kind of the deeper emotional and mental aspects of it. So, for example, like the people who have the bigger addiction, the harder time quitting, they often have an emotional dependence, or they're getting an emotional need met through porn. And so, for example, like you see this a lot with specific fetishes. So, someone might be into really dominant stuff because it gives them a feeling of control. Someone might be into really submissive stuff because it gives them a feeling of safety. Someone might be into looking for a certain kind of body part because they can imagine being with that person and that giving them a sense of validation or something like that. Yeah. And it's very, very, very hard to quit porn until you learn how to get that thing that you're craving in a healthier way. And I think part of the issue is people don't recognize they're doing that. And then the second issue is they're not sure how to get that feeling met in a healthier way. And that's where the coaching comes into play, where I help them find the limiting beliefs that are making that emotional deficiency exist in the first place, and then how to consciously shift that and change that belief and get their needs met in healthier ways.
Yes. So we can just transition right to your guys' new project together, and I don't know if you want to talk about it at all, but you guys recently did the NoFap Academy, and it's called Reboot Camp?
Yes.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so the NoFap Academy's been around for a little bit. We put out, YouTube videos, and we put out a newsletter regularly. But the Reboot Camp is the program that we've been working on for well over a year now. Basically, it's the synthesis of everything that I've learned through my own journey and through my experience of coaching people through porn addiction, put together in kind of a systematic, step-by-step process to essentially walk you through the journey of quitting porn from the inside out. So that's really what it is. It's a set of videos and exercises. It's got a private forum and weekly mentoring calls that basically you work through the course content, and as you go through that, you do the exercises which cause you to do the internal work necessary to make those internal shifts that I was talking about. And then you have the accountability on the forums where you're writing all the stuff down, getting feedback from peers, and then you also have the weekly mentoring calls that add a live component where you can interact, ask questions, and that sort of thing. So our goal was to give people everything they needed to get clean, and I'm pretty happy with the results so far.
You launched about a month ago, right? How has it been going?
It's been going really good. We had a great first turnout. We only launched to our initial subscribers, our people who are on our newsletter, but we've had to make a few back-end changes to support a bigger load. So once we finish those up, we're going to be launching to the public in general again, and going to be hopefully getting a whole boatload more people on board.
And what is, just so we can get this out there, what is the cost associated with that?
So we've got, right now we have it set up where you can buy in 3 different options. We've got a month-to-month option, which is $40. There's a 90-day reboot, which is $90, so $1 a day there. And then we've got a year option where you can just sign up for a year, and that's $240. So basically, the more you buy up front, the cheaper it is.
Sure.
And I've seen coaching programs that are several $100s an hour, so that seems pretty reasonable compared to that.
Yeah.
It's definitely I was really against monetization for the longest time regarding NoFap and regarding just my involvement in this porn-free movement. But I do think it's reasonable, but it's not for everybody. It's for people who need a little bit more support. For people where NoFap isn't enough, where just they want something a little bit more step by step, because NoFap, your brain on porn, your brain rebalanced, all the information is on there, but you have to find it, and you have to that could take a while. That's why universities exist. That's why there are websites like Udemy and stuff like that. All the information in the world is available on the internet, but people really like to have a step-by-step program. It's why personal training exists. It's why all that kind of stuff exists, and that's what we aim to provide here. Regarding the monetization and why we're charging money for this is because, we need to eat.
Yeah.
But
I want to have a family. Alexander does too. Down the road, and it's I have to charge a significant amount of money for one-on-one time, or else I'm not going to be able to have a family. I'm going to have to go work a full-time job, and if I do that, then I'm not going to be doing this.
Yeah, that's
there's only some hours a day.
Sorry, I'm getting a little lag. But that's something I saw posted on your Brain Rebalanced. I saw a thread that was, is NoFap selling out? I think that was the title of it. And that's something I wanted to address in this call to the Your Brain Rebalanced community, in that I don't think I'm selling out by slightly monetizing NoFap. NoFap's always going to be a free resource for people to get the help that they need to quit porn. The NoFap Academy was born because me and Mark wanted to work together to help people quit porn. It wasn't we're going to make money off of this. It just kind of evolved that way because really what happened is I was pouring my time into so many places. Mark's used to this. I complain to him about it all the time, but I have a 40-hour week day job working at Google. I have I have a girlfriend, I have so many other things, and really I was not only spending 40 hours or more a week working on NoFap, but I was also dumping a ton of my personal money into it, because I have a lot of servers that need paid for. I have a ton of expenses that you wouldn't imagine. I think last year in 2014, I spent 2014, I know I spent $14,000 out of my own personal money. Just in paying for NoFap's recurring expenses. So if you think about it, I was working 40 hours a week at my day job. I was working 40 hours a week on NoFap, and I was bringing in no money, and I was paying $14,000 a year into NoFap.
Yeah.
So it just, to be honest, it just wasn't sustainable.
Yeah, I saw a great text response from you on the YBR thread when we were asking for questions for this radio interview. And just that, like, you dedicate that much time and of your own money, you at least want to get comped for what's coming out of your pocket. And that's, I think, understandable. I received some of the same response.
But I mean, it's just not sustainable. And like, in order for NoFap to grow, and in order for me to improve NoFap, and in order for me to be able to help more people, that's just something that needed to happen in a responsible way that I can imagine. Just providing a legitimately, genuinely great service to people who need it.
Guys, one thing that I was curious about personally, because we brought up the relationship thing earlier, and that you said that when your girlfriend broke up with you, Alex, you kind of descended back into porn. I think that's something that we all have felt, is when life gets painful, we get that urge to salve that pain with porn, with our addictions. And me personally, I haven't been in a relationship for about 5 months. And Mark, I know that you're in a long-term relationship, right?
Yes, I'm married, actually.
Oh, excellent. And Alex, are you single right now, or are you in a long-term relationship?
I've been dating my girlfriend for about 8 months now, so
okay.
I don't know where the line is. It's a long-term relationship in my life.
Yeah, that would be long-term for me too. But one thing a lot of guys ask is this even possible while single? Do you think that if you were to become single again, that you'd still be on the path?
Yes.
You're referencing like no orgasming whatsoever?
Yeah,
or
no PMO. Or, I don't know where you are with
Okay.
regular masturbation, but
Yeah, it's definitely possible. Like what they call hard mode, absolutely like complete abstinence. It's totally doable. I know because I did it for almost 2 years. And yeah, it's really hard when you in that adaptation phase. But eventually, you kind of just get better at dealing with it. I think the most difficult thing is learning how to get comfortable with your emotions, learning how to be present with uncomfortable emotions. Because you have that memory of that release, you have that memory of that escape, and can be a tough thing to deal with. But once you get really good at finding other ways of dealing with your pain, learning how to actually accept them, shift your thoughts, and what I would call transmute your energy by putting it into other things, finding passion and intimacy for other avenues. That's when it actually starts getting easier to the point where it's like, wow, I don't ever want to go back because that old way stunk.
yeah. Yeah,
It's like you gain an edge in life. Like it's kind of like a cheat mode for life, just non-orgasming whatsoever. So I would kind of say the same as Mark, and it definitely makes it harder. It's very painful. Loneliness is a painful thing, but I think if you could learn to channel that energy into going out and meeting new people and living life to the fullest, I think that it makes it easier.
Yeah, I've been on.
Alex, just to recap what you said, because you lagged a little bit. You basically were saying that a lot of people go back to porn because they feel lonely and they're unable to kind of have access to women, right, in daily life. So they kind of find themselves slipping back into the kind of vortex of porn, as you say. Is that what you were saying? Because we didn't hear everything you said just then.
Yeah, I would say that's a pretty good recap. I don't mean to be so gender specific, but this is a largely male problem, and it's definitely difficult to reboot while you're single, and it's difficult to do that if you're not going to orgasm whatsoever. But it is possible, and it is possible to channel that energy into living a much more awesome life. And then once you experience that, then I think it gets easier.
I would almost argue that the process tends to go deeper and is more permanent when you do that sort of hard mode. Because if you go complete abstinence, you're actually forced to master your sexuality. If you're still having sex, then in a sense you still kind of have an out in a way. And it's not saying that that's better or anything, but until you're able to go an extended period without giving into that, who's really the master? It's kind of hard to say. So,
absolutely. And I agree with that completely, because whenever I was rebooting, especially my first time, I would totally just have sex with people, and I would still imagine porn in my head while having sex with another person. I would depersonalize them and use them as objects to achieve sexual pleasure, and that's really not a true reboot right there.
Yeah, no, exactly. I must say I went 100 days hard mode last summer. No, it wasn't last. Was it last summer? Yeah, it was last.
Yeah, it was. Yeah.
I can't remember. Yeah, thanks, Charlie. Yeah, last summer, and I must say that was when I met my ex-girlfriend, and we had an extremely kind of beautiful situation where we were basically bettering each other. She was also a porn addict, and we helped each other recover, etc., through rewiring, and it was quite a beautiful time. But if I hadn't have done that 100 days, and that during that 100 days, I got so deep into the meditation side, the really just focusing on life rather than porn. Everything else just kind of, porn became less of an aspect of even of my preoccupations. I simply just spent my time doing things I wanted to do, like working out, playing music, seeing friends, socializing, just getting out and doing stuff. And I think, you have to fill that void with something proactive. And right. In order to do that, it requires, and just getting a girlfriend is it can help. And I'm currently in a relationship, and I'm very happy. But I would also say that, as basically, to agree with what you said, I say that it's not just the only thing that we need to do. We need to do a lot of other work inside to kind of get that grounding. Mm-hmm. And once we've got that stability, then other things can come. But if you just escape into kind of a relationship, which I think is what I've seen some people on especially on YBR that have kind of found that, and I'm concerned that in that approach, finding a relationship, finding a girlfriend, whatever, you think that that's over, but then if that relationship were to come to an end, I feel that some of these people may, because they didn't put in that groundwork, may sort of fall straight back into the same loop they were in before, which is a real shame, because you feel so great that they're feeling good and they're doing well and they haven't wanked for so long. Yeah. But then you also, they haven't, as Mark says, they haven't mastered their sexuality. So it's kind of, it's very, very much agree with.
Yeah, I love what you have to say about that, Mark. Just mastering your sexuality, because a lot of people haven't been tested like that. They're in a relationship already, and they stop masturbating or using porn, and they still have a release. And it's like when I fasted a couple of times without eating any food, and the understanding I reached about hunger and about my own body through that was incredible, and it's the same thing with hard mode, I think. What were you saying, Charlie?
Yeah. I was going to say, there's, and if you're a person who suffers from erectile dysfunction, to hard mode, or at least a period of it in the beginning of your reboot, is almost essential for a lot of people. So I think there's a lot of value to learning how to do that in numerous different ways if you're a porn addict. So.
Yeah, totally.
Mm-hmm. We have a question from a listener here.
I recommend hard mode to everyone. Sorry.
Okay. Yeah, we have a question. This guy mentions he feels this, on occasion, an inner sexual joy, like a feeling of tremendous vitality and life, flowing up from my loins and joining my heart and shoulders in this low pulsing warmth. Would you mind asking if these guys have come across it? I'm in hard mode. I've only been in hard mode, and it's so thrilling and feels like this almost out-of-control rocket car I'm barely piloting. And then he says he's usually blown at minutes after he had that feeling. I'm assuming he means he relapsed. But it's such a cool feeling. Have you guys experienced this at all?
There is, I think you cut off a little bit, but you're basically talking about this positive feeling of kind of like internal, like sexual energy rising. Mm-hmm. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, this surge of joy and motivation, maybe.
Yeah, there is an interesting thing that can occur when you're facing, a strong sexual urge, that if you lean into it and open yourself to it completely, you actually are thankful for that urge. Normally it's the thing you hate because it hurts. There's a point of surrender where it does. It actually fills you. You feel, it's like this feeling in your heart. I don't know how to describe it, but there is an emotional sort of like transfixion or something that occurs that is quite profound. So it sounds like he was tapping into that. At least that's the best I can relate to it.
Yeah.
I don't want to talk about chakras right now, but just saying.
I know what you're saying, yeah.
That's also what the Indians have been saying for a few millennia. But I'm not saying I believe in that or anything. I'm not religious, whatever. But interesting to think about, right? Interesting concept.
I've had similar feelings, especially when I'm not focused on anything, like on a job that I've been working, and I can kind of do it on autopilot. And sometimes, if I'm not focused on something, if I'm not pursuing a goal, I'll feel that surge come up, and I'll just get incredibly horny. I'll feel like there's like a wildfire within me, and I just need to go do something. And it can be pretty frustrating if I'm at that job and unable to go give myself an outlet. So when I'm not in a situation like that, I can just pursue my goals and transmute that energy, like you were saying, Mark, into something productive.
Right.
But otherwise, if I can't channel it, it can be pretty overwhelming.
Yeah, for sure.
Yeah.
I would agree with all of you. Just, I never really, I didn't feel it as a sexual urge, really, during my hard mode. I would just, it's hard to explain, and I think the gentleman who asked the question really did a very good job at taking that feeling and putting it onto paper, finger to keyboard. But yeah, I definitely did experience that. And it was just increased energy, like an increased love for life, and I felt like I was able to feel everything more than I did before. Like the colors were more vibrant, and life just took on a whole new meaning for me. And that definitely occurred the first time I didn't ejaculate for maybe 7 or 8 days. It happened for me then for the first time.
Do you feel that way all the time now?
I wouldn't say so, but that's because I'm in a sexual relationship. So.
Oh, okay. Yeah.
Where do you guys? Go ahead, Mark.
I was just going to say, I think that there's something that happens through self-denial, like whether it's fasting, whether it's abstinence, whether it's intense physical training or cold showers, is that when you're put into a state of kind of lack or discomfort, your internal system, it compensates in some way. You can even kind of experience it if you're stretching really tight muscles or getting like a painful massage. After a while, you'll actually feel like the natural sort of opiates in your body release, the kind of counterbalance. And I think that this is what people start to see, is that when you open yourself up and start getting comfortable with discomfort, you actually start getting comfortable with it. Your body adapts and releases some weird stuff that makes you feel good.
Maybe you're less. Maybe it's because your body isn't getting so much of that dopamine that you may be a little bit more susceptible to these other things that can be released by your brain and affect you.
Yeah.
Oh yeah.
That's completely speculatory, but
yeah, we don't. Neither of us are neuroscientists, so we just know the practical end of it.
Yeah, and even neuroscientists don't really know what's going on with pornography addiction. So
clearly,
yeah.
Where do you guys see this going in the future? What do you think 10 years from now the landscape will look like? Do you think everyone will know that porn has these potential harmful effects on people, or what do you think NoFap will look like at that point? Do you have any idea?
Yeah, sure. So, we have all of us in on this call and everybody listening. We have quite a battle, quite a war ahead of us. We are outnumbered 1,000,000 to 1. So I have I have high hopes rather for the next 10 years, but my expectations are kind of in the middle. I think more and more people are going to realize it, but I think there's going to be this has to be the long game that we're playing. We have to. I think it's going to be up to us guys who grew up on high-speed internet porn, to teach our children that it's bad for them. I think it's going to be something that we're going to have to work on for the next, until we die. I think this is going to be that long of a battle. In terms of NoFap, I'm just hoping to grow it, add more features, and make it an incredible tool to help people quit porn. And I guess where do I see it? I've been working really heavily on NoFap.com. We have an iPhone app coming, a Windows phone app coming, different Android app coming. We have all sorts of stuff. So I just would really like to see NoFap.com be really kind of like a place where people could go where they're going to find everything that they need to quit porn. And Mark, maybe you want to talk about the future of NoFap Academy and maybe your future and what you've got going on.
Yeah, sure. So there's kind of like there's two different things to look at here. On one hand, all right, so where are things going to be for people who get it, who understand that porn is not good for them? I think in 10 years from now, we're going to have fantastic resources available for them. We're probably going to be on, definitely not the same program that we're on now, like hopefully a couple of iterations later, even better, even more improved, more streamlined, and hopefully getting off of porn is as easy as it is to get, on it. So that's the goal. Still going to ask something of them. It's still going to be sacrifice, but hopefully, it's pretty easy. So that's one side of things, which I'm hoping the NoFap Academy leads the way on. The other side of things is for the people who don't get it. And that's where the whole moral component comes in. I think that's going to be very interesting to see how it unfolds, because being anti-porn, I see it being very at odds with the general sort of belief system of what you could call the sex-positive movement. And I see a lot of friction being created there. And so I'm interested to see how that goes down, especially with the emergence of the science. I can see, some significant backlash against this kind of work, saying that, we're shaming people and things like that, because I already experienced that. But where I'd hope things go is I hope that there is a reconnection, especially of our generation, to real intimacy and connecting our sexuality to something more than just personal gratification, because honestly, I don't see our society thriving unless we can do that. Because you think about it, what is the most fundamental unit of society, which is, it's the family. And the family is built upon essentially the sexual relationship between a man and a woman. And right now, our generation, on that regard, is kind of messed up. So, at some point, we got to be able to bring that nucleus back to, a love-centered sexuality. And getting there, hopefully, will be totally doable as long as we got people, leading the way. But I also see the potential of people getting kind of angry at that and wanting to hold on to their porn and things like that. So we'll see how that goes.
I want to talk briefly.
One of my favorite things, just say briefly, is that Gabe Team said there's nothing more sex negative than a penis that doesn't work. And with that, I'll pause.
That's a good quote right there. I want to think about 20 years down the road. I mean, I think by that point, science will have conclusively proven that porn addiction is completely real. I believe science has already kind of proven that, but it's going to be very conclusive, black and white. There's going to be detailed information about the neuroscience in 10 to 20 years, and people are going to flat out know that porn addiction, or porn is very similar to maybe a cigarette or something of that nature. The problem is the porn industry is also going to evolve during that time. I mean, can you imagine what porn's going to be like in 20 years?
Virtual reality stuff.
Yeah. Goggles.
Yeah, we're going to have VR porn, robots. I mean, so I kind of predict that more and more people are going to come to realize that pornography is or using porn is similar to smoking cigarettes. You're harming yourself a little bit every time you watch it. But I also think that there's going to be a select group of people who just, it's going to be really, really bad for some people. I think once the VR stuff comes out, you're going to just get so deep into that addiction that it's going to be really, really hard to crawl out of it.
It's crack cocaine for what's already pretty much cocaine, right?
Right. I mean, we've got drug education. Everybody knows doing heroin's bad, but we still have a heroin epidemic. So even if the word gets out there, with the way that porn is evolving, as Alexander said, I think it's going to get even probably more divided, I would say. You're going to have the people that are, I wouldn't be surprised if we reach a point where, you're either hooked, you're like society is divided into people hooked on porn and the people who are completely like staying away from it.
Yeah. Which that almost sounds better than the way it is right now, though, because I mean, haven't they done? They've tried to do studies before where they try to get people who don't look at porn or don't view porn, and they just can't even find it.
Yeah, they can't find people.
Yeah.
People are just so like everything's really twisted up right now. I do think that people are going to realize, because as Mark was talking about, like I definitely get a lot of backlash from people who email me or tweet me or whatever, and they say, "Oh, you're just," they say I'm sex negative, but they don't. I guess the general public right now has somehow associated pornography with sexuality, and they don't see the difference between them. I'm hoping that changes throughout the next 10 to 20 years, or hopefully sooner. But it's definitely going to be a battle, and I think that that's up to all of us. I mean, we're all in this battle together, and we need to stick together, and we need to hold to our guns. And anyone listening to this, I mean, you're part of this porn-free movement, and I hope that, we need all the help that we could get.
Definitely. I'd like to just add to that, in that we were talking about earlier, but when we were off camera, me and Charlie, that there seems to be a lot of these kind of websites cropping up. There's Reboot Nation, there's YBR, there's NoFap, there's Reddit, there's NoFap Academy, all these things that are cropping up now. And what I also want to say is that we're all in this together, and it's not about who's getting what. It's simply about, this is something we're trying to do to help other people who are suffering from this addiction, right? And I think we're all agreed in that. And everyone who's listening, we're all here to support each other, and there's no animosity between any of us. And I just want to make sure early, there's never any animosity between any of us, right? Because this is important, because this happens when there's a movement. People get kind of, they get carried away with something and they go on their own path or whatever. But I really want to make sure that we kind of stay communicating with each other, communicating ideas and thoughts, and so then we have because together we're much more powerful, right, as a movement. And so
absolutely,
we're small enough as it is. We have to stick together.
Exactly.
We do, and I definitely encourage. I mean, I'll say it right here. My email address is alexander@nofap.com. Feel free to email me for any collaboration, any if you just want to chat, say hi. I can't promise that I'll answer quickly because my inbox is like it's like herding ferrets or something. But I'm always open, and I do think that there could definitely be some better communication between the website admins, between NoFap and your Brain Rebalanced and other forums out there. And we definitely need. My goal is to level up humanity, and I think in order to do that, we need to work together as much as possible, because our opponent is like a giant compared to us, and strength in numbers.
Yeah, definitely. Yeah, we were just talking about that too. A good way to get all these, at least in some way, get all these different places that talk about pornography addiction linked. We don't even know how you would do that, but that would just be a good way to start, because there's so many of us that broke off in so many different branches, all saying relatively the same things. So.
I think part of it is just a big, I don't know. That's something we could definitely explore in the future, but there are some that stand out a little bit more than others. Like there's Fight the New Drug. I'm sure you've heard of them. They're probably the biggest people in our industry, and
yeah.
I don't know. I don't know why I said that. It's just from my understanding. I don't really see them posting on many of our forums.
Mm-mm.
I haven't had very good communication with them, and I wish that just between myself and all the other admins, I wish that we would communicate and coordinate a little bit more together, because we're all in this together.
Let's try to get them on the show. Should we work on that?
Yeah, Fight the New Drug. Open invitation.
Yeah.
Get on the show.
You're listening. Get on the show.
Yeah.
Fight the New Drug. For those of you who don't know, Fight the New Drug does presentations in high schools, and they do a lot of in-person outreach, talking about the dangers of pornography and porn addiction among teenagers. They have some good stuff going on.
They do, definitely.
Based in Salt Lake City,
I wish that you're based out of Salt Lake City. I guess I talked to somebody from them on the phone once, and then I don't know. I guess our conversations never really panned out. I pretty much reached out and I was like, hey, is there anything that we could do to maybe collaborate on something, work together somehow because we're in this together. And they, I think, Clay emailed me back. He's the founder of Fight the New Drug, and he was like, yeah, sure, man. And then, but he's a busy guy, but maybe someday.
Yeah.
But at the same time,
invitation.
I'm glad to see all these different sites popping up, because you search for recovery from cigarette addiction, and you find a bazillion sites, and no matter which one people go to, they're going to find some good information. So no matter which one of our sites people find, they're going to find some help, and that's pretty awesome, because back when I was looking for help in 2008, I first had PIED, I couldn't find any. So it's much better.
Right. And I see kind of like as people come into the field and everything like that, I'm hoping that there's going to be a distinction to start arising. Some people are going to focus on recovery, like what we do in NoFap Academy. Some people are going to focus on the community. Some people are going to focus on raising awareness. Some people are going to focus on helping people specifically around sexual dysfunction and things like that. And I think by diversifying what we bring to the table, we can make sure that you pick something and you do it really, really well, and that ultimately is going to help everyone then, because then we're not stepping on each other's toes and that sort of thing, and then there's always something really good to be had by the people who are searching for stuff.
Yeah, that would be really cool. That's the type of future that I want to see. Because there's so many facets of pornography addiction, like you said, sexual dysfunction, all sorts of different things.
There's relationships. There's
people in relationships, people who are lonely.
Yeah, even your professional life. What your addiction does in your personal, professional, and social lives, and all those sorts of things. So, I'm just agreeing with you. It's a really good idea.
One question I had for you guys was, you've been in this for a while, you've talked to a lot of people who've gone through this addiction, and without, of course, naming any names, what's one of the most inspiring stories you've heard?
Okay, I'll start. Mark probably has, Mark has some really good ones, but I'll just say that it's never too late to quit porn. I know a gentleman who started his rebooting process at the age of 54. Mm-hmm. That's not the oldest that I've heard of, but he's the person who I most intimately know. And he, I guess I'm being really vague because I don't actually know if he wants me to tell his story, to the public. But that's just something I want to bring out. I really like seeing stories of people who have been using porn since they were teenagers. Like he started out on videotapes. Probably none of us have ever watched pornography on a tape before. Maybe one of us. Yeah, VCR. Or did anything come before that? That guy's been watching porno for a very long time, and he started out with Playboys, and he was addicted to it for well over 30 years, and he found NoFap, and he was able to make full recovery. And since then, he actually was in a divorce as a result of his porn addiction, and since then he's just completely turned around every single area of his life, and it's just incredibly touching. And I read stories like that every day, and that's really what for me kind of I hear people like David Lay and people telling me that porn addiction doesn't exist, and I'm like, I don't care what you say. I don't care. I see hundreds of people around the world completely turning their lives around, and just as a direct result of quitting porn, and nothing else. That's the only variable that's changed. They removed porn from their lives, and suddenly their erections work again. They're able to be more productive. They're able to have healthy relationships and just have a much fuller, healthier, more amazing life and lives. And just if there's a neuroscientist out there telling me porn addiction doesn't exist, I tell them, well, I don't really care. I'm going to continue moving on forward anyway, to helping people quit porn, because I'm not going to wait for you to validate what we're doing.
I think for me, the most inspiring thing, it's happened a number of times with clients where there's a point in our series of sessions where they kind of break down and they cry. And they cry for usually two reasons. One is because they realize like what they've been doing, the reading is they haven't been caring for themselves, essentially. And because they don't feel like they're worth it, right? I think a lot of what happens when people struggle to quit porn is that they don't think that they're worth their own discomfort to improve their life. And if you do believe you're worth it, then hey, it's a worthwhile investment. But there's many people out there who end up doing it, in a self-destructive manner, because ultimately they don't feel good enough about themselves. So that's usually the first time they cry. And then the second time they cry is when they make a true commitment to taking care of themselves. They make a true commitment to doing what's best for themselves, despite what it might cost them, despite what kind of pain or discomfort they might have to face. And that's where real self-compassion begins. It's like where you start giving yourself the love that is not just a pleasure-seeking love. You're giving yourself the love that can be strong and tough, right? But that's the real love, right? A parent doesn't let, a sick kid avoid getting a shot that's going to save their life. In the same way, you shouldn't, avoid taking the steps to cut porn out of your life that's going to make your life worth really living. So I guess whenever I see someone make that realization that they're worth it, and that, their life can be good, they deserve it, that's the most inspiring thing for me.
Fantastic. Those must be really powerful moments. Charlie and Daniel, do you guys have any more questions for Mark and Alex? Because we're running out of time on this episode.
I don't have any more questions right now. Seems like you guys are doing good work over there, though.
Thank you. You are too, though. I mean, you guys are really cool. I'm really sad that we weren't able to meet until today, so I'm hoping that each one of you adds me on Skype, or I'm going to go after this call and add you, and I hope to stay in contact. Please accept my request.
Wait, yeah.
Rejected.
Sure.
Well,
and I just want to say a big thank you. Yeah. I want to say a personal thank you to you guys, because it's really, warms my heart as well, just seeing the compassion just in this group of people right here, right now. So much compassion and love for the human race and for other beings, and
that's what it's all about. I mean, our lives are so short and finite, and really the only thing that we could do is live to serve others and live to level up humanity.
Of course.
Nothing else makes sense.
The last thing I want to end on is, if you could say one thing to someone out there who's just discovering all this information, just realize that maybe I have hurt myself with my porn habits that I've been doing for years, what would you tell them? Just one thing.
For me, it would be, you're worth the investment and you can do it. So I guess that's two things, but you're worth the investment of whatever time, comfort, energy, money, even whatever it takes. It's worth it, you're worth it, and you can make this change.
That's a really tough question. I think it's an awesome question, but
go to NoFap.com.
I would just tell people that Mark kind of stole the words out of my mouth. It's completely possible to make a full recovery from porn addiction, and also everything that you're experiencing as a negative result of porn is real. Don't let the people like David Lay and others discourage you. Go onto any website, any safe community of people like you who have been addicted to porn. Doesn't have to be NoFap. There are a ton of awesome communities out there. There's Your Brain Rebalanced. There's Reboot Nation. Go to Your Brain on Porn, and just if you're just starting out, I would just recommend educating yourself as much as possible and connect with like-minded people who are also trying to make recoveries. I think that's the strongest thing that you could do. And as Mark said, you could do it. There has been a rebooter out there who has had it much worse. and people who have had it much worse than you have gone on and made full recoveries, and it's completely possible, and it's within your hands to make that change. You just, as Mark said, you have to decide to make an investment in yourself and invest that time and make that jump.
Fantastic. Well, I think that's a great place to end it, because that was beautiful, Alex. All right, listeners, we love you. Never stop loving yourself in the good way. See you
not in the bad way.
Thanks, guys. See you later.
All right,
Thank
see
you.
ya.
Thank you so much for having us.
You bet.
Yeah, thank you.